Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and the best Nintendo Switch 2 2026 leaks just dropped. And when I say the best, what I'm suggesting here, that these leaks are coming from the most reliable leaker when it comes to Nintendo. Yes, that's right, Nate the Hate, most consider him to be the most reliable. No leaker out there we should assume is going to get everything 100% correct, but Nate the Hate has been the most consistent over the years, and when he says something, most people buy into it with a lot of confidence, and he has put out his most recent podcast, and he has stated some really big things for Nintendo's 2026, including a huge outline of what's to come in the summer, but also even talks a little bit about Nintendo's holiday plans. And there are some shocking things here, some of which will disappoint you, but others will completely make up for it and have you completely hyped. And for me, it has me really excited because there are some things here that are being stated to come out this year that I've been waiting for and talking about and theorizing about for years. So I'm super stoked about this. We are talking about huge Zelda remakes. We're talking about a huge return coming out sooner than expected that has to do with one of our favorite furry friends. And, well, I think there are even further crazy, incredible implications from all of this. We're going to be diving into all of that today. Now, before doing so, let me simply point out I have this goal to reach 60,000 subscribers. If you find yourself enjoying my videos, I would very much appreciate your subscription. But diving into things here, and I just wanted to point this out, there's a lot of good things, exciting things that will make up for some of the bad news here, but there is bad news that Nate the Hate is reporting. So just keep in mind there's some positive stuff that will make up for his negative stuff, but I'm going to say everything in order in terms of what was relayed by Nate the Hate. So, they talk about the Nintendo Direct situation, and this is what is said. It does not sound like, from what Nate the Hate has heard from internal conversations, that there will be a general Direct until June. Now, we've been talking about different rumors about a general Direct, but what we've also talked about consistently is that once we got the partner, looking at the history of how Nintendo's handled Directs, this might suggest we have to wait all the way until June for a big general. And that seems to be what Nate the Hate is suggesting here. He has not heard about a general in April. He speculates June, he doesn't know for sure it's going to be June. And he can't dismiss a smaller Direct in April, or May. Maybe another partner showcase, perhaps a Direct mini. But he's arrived to these conclusions based off conversations he's been having. Now, this point alone I think is really interesting for several reasons. One, we're going to wait all the way until June before we get a big Nintendo Direct. That seems like a real head-scratcher, simply from the perspective of, we're early on to the Switch 2 generation, when is Nintendo going to bring the hype? But we'll be getting to that. It sounds like they will, and really soon, before this June Direct. But also, we had the rumor from Nash Weedle, who has gotten many things correct in the past, not everything, but many things correct, and he talked about how he had many sources indicating either February or March we would be getting a general Direct, with a reveal for 3D Mario to come out at the end of the year, and the next announcement from Monolith Soft. It's looking like what he's heard has been pretty inaccurate, at least according to what Nate the Hate has heard for this specific instance. However, to somewhat support what Nash has also heard, Nash reported that Devil May Cry 5 would be coming to Switch 2 first. As you see here, he was reporting on it back on March 3rd, and yesterday we actually saw a rating for Devil May Cry coming to Switch 2 from Taiwan, which supports that this game is indeed coming to the console, but also Nate the Hate, who recorded this podcast likely before this recent rating, is also saying he has heard Devil May Cry 5 is coming to Switch 2. And there's some other stuff here that's going to come up that will somewhat relate to Nash Weedle leaks. I'll just say that my perspective on Nash right now is that he does indeed get legitimate sources, but I also think he has other sources that are very shaky, and he reports on a lot of them. And so when it comes to Nash leaks, I feel like maybe we should look at it as a little bit of hit or miss. Like there's maybe a 50-50 chance that's going to mean something's actually happening, and another, well, maybe it was reported too soon or something else is going on. But that's my perspective right now. But coming back to things said by Nate the Hate, getting into the exciting stuff. While we may not be getting a general Direct until June, according to what Nate the Hate has heard so far, he does leave it open that perhaps those plans could change, we'll see. He does talk about significant stuff for Nintendo's summer lineup, and quite frankly, it's shocking, and in a very, very good way. So, apparently, and what's interesting about this is we've been theorizing for a long time that Star Fox would be on the way for Nintendo Switch 2, and that's tied a lot into our belief that Star Fox would be in the Mario Galaxy movie, which was confirmed yesterday. We talked about that yesterday. And that further strengthens our belief that a game is in the works, but I've been thinking it would be coming out in 2027. Well, apparently, this game is coming out imminently, according to Nate the Hate, in the very near future, this summer. And he talks about how it would be revealed in April. Now, going back to Nash Weedle, because I find this really interesting, so yesterday, Nash Weedle put out this tweet: Nintendo fans, an entire generation we've been waiting for, will find out in April, and will have it in summer. And many people seem to have been under the belief that this has to do with Star Fox, which this post was made the same day as the reveal of Star Fox in the movie, literally yesterday. This came from Nash Weedle, and while he didn't specifically state Star Fox, a lot of people were thinking that's what he was getting at. And now Nate the Hate is saying the exact same thing after Nash said it. So this just kind of goes to serve my point that Nash seems to hear real things that even Nate the Hate will report on later, but then there are other things that don't add up. So my point is that when it comes to Nash Weedle things, given the history of getting things correct, even though there have also been things that have been wrong, it warrants having the conversation because I think Nash has shown he does seem to have some connections. That said, Nate the Hate has more to say about this Star Fox game that's coming out imminently, according to him and Nash apparently. But in terms of what the game will be, it's going to be in the classic style of Star Fox. So think Star Fox 64, I suppose. But it's also said to have great visuals. This might actually be the first proper visual showcase from Nintendo of what the Switch 2 can do. We've yet to see Nintendo take advantage of DLSS with their games. Perhaps Star Fox will do this. Now, this is me speculating on what's been heard. What's been heard is that the game is going to look fantastic. But there's something else really cool that Nate is saying about this game. It's going to have, finally, online multiplayer. We are going to have the dogfights in Star Fox, and that sounds awesome. And what's really crazy about all this is that this is supposedly getting revealed this month of April, and what's so fascinating about it is that it's supposed to come out in summer, very, very soon, and the way it's being worded, it's being suggested this would be coming out before other games that are coming out this summer. What are those other games? Splatoon Raiders is said to be coming after Star Fox, Rhythm Heaven, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, and maybe, this part he's not as confident on, just he's confident it's coming out this year, a Switch 2 edition of Pikmin 4. Oh, and another, some kind of version of Switch Sports. It might be a sequel, it might be a Switch 2 edition, he's not certain on that, but all those things he's heard about to come out this summer. So we're going to be looking at a summer that's going to open up with Star Fox. I guess that would be the big June game. So it'll be revealed in April with a quick, super fast turnaround to come out in June. June isn't specifically stated, by the way, but I'm just kind of connecting the dots here. But then after, we'd be getting Splatoon Raiders, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, Rhythm Heaven, a Pikmin 4 Switch 2 edition, might slip a little bit later into the year, but also some kind of new entry for the Switch Sports series. And he also talks about the possibility of other things like DLC. Maybe, doesn't say with confidence, but maybe a DLC for Mario Kart World. He also reminds us of his prediction of the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Definitive Edition. That can maybe slip somewhere in summer or perhaps a little bit later into this year. And all that together sounds like an incredible summer. At least for me, this might be the best Nintendo summer of all time. I mean, if we go back to last summer, it was pretty good. Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza for the Switch 2. That's a really strong summer lineup. But getting Star Fox, a brand new Star Fox, Splatoon Raiders, Fire Emblem, and maybe some other goodness like a new Switch Sports and a Pikmin 4 Switch 2 edition, that sounds incredibly hype. And that would be Nintendo really showing us that 2026 is actually a pretty good year, especially if that is just the summer stuff here. So this is some pretty huge, fantastical things that Nate the Hate is claiming here, but given Nate the Hate's track history, given his consistency and years of putting out these leaks and taking his time to put it out there after properly vetting the information, while I still think we should take this with a grain of salt, because until officially announced, plans can change. Maybe he's off somehow. He's been off before, even recently. We look at what we heard about Kirby Planet Robot, was supposed to come out last year. We haven't heard about it yet. I don't doubt that it's in existence, but we haven't heard about what's to come of it yet. Still, though, this sounds incredible, and I guess we'll see. Like, we're gonna find out this month if Nintendo does an amazing Star Fox Switch 2 reveal, then we're gonna have a pretty good inkling of what's to come for the rest of the summer. So this is just so exciting. Like, I'm so hyped for a new Star Fox. I'm so excited to see how this game is going to showcase the Switch 2, having online multiplayer, a reason to use the Switch 2 game chat. By the way, I've barely used the Switch 2 game chat. I use it like once, and that's it, because I haven't really been playing any online games on my Switch 2. But with Star Fox to open the summer, oh yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of Star Fox online gaming here, and this alone makes up for there not being a Direct, because if we get a huge Star Fox game in April, we're going to be talking about this new epic Star Fox game, which will carry us over until June, where we'll get information about everything else. So, what are we supposedly learning after this point? Nate the Hate speaks on a bit of that as well. Not everything, but on a bit of it. So, he talks about what we might see revealed in the June Direct, and from what he's hearing, the Dustbloods, a huge From Software exclusive coming to Switch 2, something I'm very excited about. In terms of things that are officially announced, it is currently my most anticipated game of the year, although I think a new Star Fox would probably surpass that, or at least be comparable. It's apparently coming out late 2026, which, you know, at this point doesn't seem that crazy, because we've yet to see an announcement about when Elden Ring is coming out for Switch 2, another From Software title. I imagine it's coming out relatively soon, but they want to probably have them divided across the first half of the year and the second half of the year. Elden Ring comes out maybe within the next couple months, and then the Dustbloods comes out sometime later on into 2026. Late 2026, as Nate the Hate is reporting. But this is where some more bad news comes. Some of you may remember that earlier in the year, Nate the Hate predicted that 3D Mario would be coming out this year. And I myself, when I put out my initial predictions to start the year, I was back and forth between two different possible games, either the big 3D Mario or a big Zelda remake. And eventually, I started leaning more towards 3D Mario for this year and the big Zelda remake to be 2027. Well, apparently that prediction is wrong. 3D Mario has been pushed, I guess, internally, or it was never announced for 2026, so it's hard to say with certainty, right? But apparently, for polish reasons, that's what Nate Hate thinks. 3D Mario is coming out in 2027, which is not that far off and could possibly mean that the game is still announced this year. So if we get our first look at 3D Mario later into this year, I still think that could be awesome. But, as I may have just alluded to, this does suggest something else would be coming out for this holiday. And as it turned out, I went in the wrong direction with my predictions when I was divided between two different ideas at the beginning of this year. That Zelda remake, the Ocarina of Time, the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake, the full remake we've been theorizing on for years, going back to the Aonuma interviews where he's teased it multiple times in multiple interviews, where he has a history of teasing future Zelda titles in interviews. Going back to the patents where he's seen Nintendo's been working with new technology regarding having a fairy on screen. Taking a look at the recently announced Ocarina of Time Lego set. Considering the importance of having either a major Zelda or major Mario title early on into a generation, the history of Nintendo doing this, and that it's Zelda's 40th anniversary, and for every big anniversary over the last few decades, Nintendo has made sure to tease the future of Zelda in some way. It looks like all that reasoning and evidence, according to what Nate the Hate has now finally heard, are coming together here. Nate the Hate is finally supporting the theories we've been theorizing about for years. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake is happening and is going to be for the 40th anniversary, and this is described as a full remake. And I'm going to go back to something we've heard from Nash Weedle, because it's interesting how a lot of things Nash Weedle has reported about well in advance Nate the Hate, when he's appropriately vetted it and it seems like it's coming out relatively soon, then here's something really similar. Nashville has also talked about an ambitious Ocarina of Time remake and has never stepped back from it happening. However, recently he also said he heard about an Ocarina of Time 3D HD from a separate source. And that has been very upsetting to me, because I think that would just be a bad move from Nintendo to put out just an upscale of the 3DS remaster. But what I think it goes to show is that Nashville reports on different things he's heard from different sources, and in some cases it doesn't feel like they can all fit, right? Like, unless there's like a Zelda 3D All-Stars that comes out this year and we're waiting years for the bigger Ocarina of Time remake, there's no way both sources can be accurate here. So I think it kind of goes to serve the point that Nashville reports about a lot of things from different sources that are hearing different things. Some of these sources maybe are not so reliable. While Nash has reported about some pretty cool things, he's also reporting some things that have not come to fruition. So in the future, I think we should just really keep this in mind, that Nashville is reporting on things that are hit or miss. But Nate the Hate is reporting that we are getting a full remake of Ocarina of Time. He's not sure what that means exactly. I hear that and I think there's no way this could be just a basic upscale of Ocarina of Time 3D. He's not describing it as a remaster, but a full remake. So the thinking here is that visually this is going to look like a modern Zelda game made for Switch 2, but to what extent will it be remade? Will it be kind of like a Final Fantasy VII remake kind of thing, or a Capcom Resident Evil remake kind of thing, where they change around the gameplay and modernize it? Or is it just going to be kind of like just visually rebuilt, but structurally, gameplay-wise, is exactly the same? I think this should be somewhere in the middle. I think this should have some gameplay changes, some adjustments. And I do feel like Nintendo has been suggesting something big like this has been happening. I mentioned a lot of reasons why we think that something big is coming in regards to Zelda Remake Ocarina of Time, but there are other things. There is the Nintendo tweet of a Zelda Remake. There are the interviews with Aonuma, where he talks about how Koei Tecmo kind of beat them to the punch in terms of getting a major Zelda offering on Switch 2, implying they have something to come soon, which would lead one to believe they have something for the 40th anniversary, something big. I guess that big thing is, finally, the Ocarina of Time remake. And so that's what we've heard from the Nate the Hate podcast. We're gonna have to wait for a general direct until June, it seems. He's not ruling out some other kind of presentation in April. Devil May Cry 5 is on the way to Switch 2. A big Nintendo reveal is happening in April. Star Fox. It's coming out imminently, really soon, early summer. Before we would also get in summer, Splatoon Raiders, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, Rhythm Heaven, and perhaps even a Switch Sports something and a Pikmin 4 Switch 2 edition. Also mentions we could be seeing something in terms of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 enhanced on Switch 2 at some point this year. And then later on into the year, we're going to be getting the Dust Bloods and an Ocarina of Time remake, and 3D Mario is being saved for 2027. And so what's kind of funny about this is that I've been theorizing that we'll be getting Star Fox and an Ocarina of Time remake for 2027, and that 3D Mario and the Gen 10 Pokemon, what we now know as Winds and Waves, would be for 2026. And it seems that's been flipped. We've already gotten the confirmation that Pokemon Winds and Waves is coming out in 2027, which was surprising to many. And 3D Mario is also apparently being saved for 2027 now. But the Zelda remake, and also Star Fox, that I thought would be coming out next year, are coming out this year, according to what Nate the Hate has recently heard. Kind of funny how that works. Either way, super exciting. I think things are going to be totally fine. If we're getting a big Star Fox reveal in April, that's going to carry us over in terms of having fun things to talk about and analyze with Nintendo till June, where we get all the other stuff, including probably the big Zelda Ocarina of Time remake announcement. And that's going to be exciting stuff to take us throughout the year. I will also point out, though, that Nate the Hate doesn't know about everything for the holiday. There's still more left to maybe come out this year. And something else we've theorized should be coming out relatively soon is the next project from Next Level Games. Now, some people have been speculating that maybe Next Level Games is making the Star Fox title. That's a possibility. But I want to throw out there, we've heard from Special Nick, another person who has reliably heard about some pretty legitimate Nintendo things, has heard about amiibos coming out for Zelda this year and Luigi from Luigi's Mansion, which leads me to believe that Next Level Games has been working on a Luigi's Mansion 4 and will be coming out with it soon. If 3D Mario is not coming out until next year and we still need a little bit more from Nintendo, Luigi's Mansion 4 Ocarina of Time remake plus the Dust Bloods for the later part of the year and a summer of Star Fox, Fire Emblem, and Splatoon Raiders, I think that's the kind of combo that will deliver a really strong, compelling year for the Switch 2. And that will hold us over until 2027, where we have Pokemon Winds and Waves, 3D Mario, and who knows what else is on the horizon. So it's exciting stuff, not happening exactly how a lot of people thought it would, myself included, but still gonna be good when it's all said and done, at least according to what Nate the Hate has heard. Reminder, take it with a grain of salt until officially confirmed, but it does sound promising. So what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I will see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.